with a single stick of ECCDDR3, 16 gigabytes running at 1600 megahertz. It only cost me $10, which is a solid deal for this amount of RAM. It's not the fastest by today's standards, but for a budget Xeon build, 16 gigabytes is more than enough to keep things running smoothly. Next up is storage. To save money, I went with a used drive, since they're much cheaper than buying brand new. For this build, I chose a 256 gigabyte NVMe M.2 drive that cost me about $10. The nice thing is that this motherboard actually supports PCIe M.2, so I get much faster read and write speeds compared to a regular SATA SSD. It's not a huge amount of space, but it's plenty for the operating system and a few games. When you're building a budget PC, every component feels like a puzzle, and this time, the hardest piece for me to choose was the graphics card. With a budget of only $30 to $50, the options were pretty limited. Cards like the RX 570 or even the RX 5808 gigabytes offered more VRAM, but most of them had been used heavily for mining. And if you tried to buy a new refurbished card, especially the 2048 SP versions coming out of China, the price would easily climb past $100, way out of budget for this build. So after some searching, I finally landed on the GTX 10603GB, which I picked up for $50 on eBay. It doesn't have as much VRAM as the RX 580, but the 1060 is far less likely to have been beaten up by miners. That means better reliability, stable performance, and when tuned properly, it can still deliver smooth gameplay in most popular titles. The total power consumption of all components in this build comes to around 250 watts. As a general rule, your power supply should be about 10 to 20% higher than the system's actual power draw, or at least 1.5 times higher, roughly 150 to 200 extra watts, to ensure stable performance and long-term reliability. It's also worth considering factors like your usage needs and whether the unit has an 80+ certification for better power efficiency. For this build, I decided to go with a 450 watt power supply that's 80+ certified, which I picked up for about $30. So we've just finished picking out all the essential components needed to build a gaming PC. Technically, you could start gaming with just $212, but to complete the setup, I added a used PC case like this one. It already comes with 3 fans, and I got it for around $30. That brings the total to $242 for a fully functional gaming PC. And now comes the most exciting part. Let's see how this budget build actually performs in some real games. In Fortnite, at medium settings, the CPU operated around 80% load, staying cool at just 40 degrees Celsius with a clock speed of 3.5 GHz and power draw of about 75 watts. Meanwhile, the GPU worked more lightly at 52 to 60% utilization, but ran warmer at 61 degrees Celsius, consuming slightly over 70 watts. Despite the modest hardware usage, performance stayed remarkably consistent, holding between 55 and